On Easter Sunday in 2019, a series of coordinated bombings erupted across Sri Lanka, killing some 270 people, including Australians. The attacks were the work of Muslim extremists. But Sri Lankans have now been shocked to hear allegations that government officials may have been complicit in the bombings. Tonight, a former police chief speaks for the first time about political interference in his investigation. This report by Josh Robertson from ABC Investigations.
Oh, wow, look what I found.
Did you find it?
Yes, from the phone.
Very in front.
Yes.
Chatudila Weerasinghe still carries the marks of Easter Sunday 4 years ago.
I had a lot of shrapnels that was blowing at me. Major one was in my eye that was in, they had to remove it when I was in Sri Lanka immediately because I was bleeding out. It was a shrapnel that was almost closer to the heart. It's too risky to get the shrapnel out because it's right next to the heart. They don't want to risk that. So it's better to just leave it there.
The Melbourne woman was on a family trip to Sri Lanka when a blast ripped through their hotel in the capital, Colombo.
I was having breakfast and actually I was kneeling down to get a plate from the buffet. I thought I pulled the plug or something and I got electrocuted or something. That was what my thoughts were. But then later on when I arrived at the hospital, there was like a lot happening. Like then I thought, oh, okay, this must be something more than that.
It was one of a wave of bombings of hotels and Catholic churches that morning, which killed about 270 people, including 2 Australians. Chatu's father, Ranjit, rushed to Sri Lanka to be by his daughter's side.
The only thing which I wanted to do is to get her back to Melbourne as soon as possible.
4.5 years later, the trauma is still fresh.
So I've been shocked to hear in the news the bomb blast and the daughter and wife both were in at the same time. And then I was screaming here and yelling and then, don't know, I might have banged to the doors.
Sri Lankan police found the bombings were the handiwork of an Islamic State-inspired group, National Tawhid Jamaat, or NTJ. Now, the former head of the investigation claims the terror group was in direct contact with government officials in the lead-up to Easter Sunday. That's fueled suspicions by some that the attacks were orchestrated by allies of Sri Lanka's powerful Rajapaksa political dynasty to help it regain power.
A political plot by a group of people at the top. So that is why we have been clamoring and asking for a transparent investigation which is free, which is not guided by politicians.
The Easter Sunday bombings were not the first killings by NTJ involving alleged interference by intelligence agencies.
පළමුවෙන්ම 2018 නොවැම්බර් මාසේ 30 වෙනිදා මඩකලපුව දිස්ත්‍රික්කයේ වවුනතිව් පොලිස් පුරපල මාර්ගවාදකයේ සිටි පොලිස් නිලධාරීන් දෙදෙනෙකු වෙඩි තබා ඝාතනය කරා.
Ravi Senavaradne was then head of Sri Lanka's Criminal Investigation Department, or CID. He says during the investigation, police were deliberately misled by military intelligence about the NTJ's involvement.
අතින්ම මෙම පොලිස් නිලධාරීන් දෙදෙනාගේ ඝාතනයේ සැකකරුවන් මේ අවස්ථාවේම කවුද කියලා දැනගන්න හම්බුණා නම් ඒ පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරය වැළැක්වීමට එක හොඳ පියවරක්.
In 2015, President Mahinda Rajapaksa was ousted after a decade of huge popularity flowing from the defeat of Tamil rebels in the civil war. But the Easter terrorist attacks in 2019 revived public support for the return to power of his brother, Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
And he said his platform was, give me the vote and I will ensure stability. So this platform was very well served by this Easter attack.
7 months after the Easter attack sent shockwaves around the country, Gotabaya Rajapaksa won the presidential election in a landslide. Ravi Senavaratne's team was taken off the Easter Sunday case, starting with his lead investigator.
ඒ වෙනකොට අලුත් ආණ්ඩුවක් පත් වුණා පමණයි. නමුත් කිසිම අවස්ථාවක වුන් මාරු කරන හේතුව මට දැනුම් දුන්නේ නැහැ.
In September, the UK's Channel 4 aired allegations that the Easter Sunday bombers met with key allies of the Rajapaksa family at this safe house in 2018. This included a claim that a senior intelligence agent, Suresh Sali, was at the meeting.
The meeting gone a long time. So meeting finished and Suresh Sali told me, Rajapaksa need an unsafe situation in Sri Lanka. That's only the way to Kotabai become president. So this is the meeting between them, with the terrorist group and Suresh Sali.
Asad Maulana is a former aide to a government minister and says he dealt with Suresh Sali for years. Sali has denied having any contact with the suicide bombers and says he was in Malaysia at the time of their alleged meeting. Gotabaya Rajapaksa has rejected Maulana's allegations as absurd. But Ravi Senavaratne believes they demand proper scrutiny, a conviction based in part on what he saw during his investigation.
විමර්ශනය සිදුවෙන අතරතුර යම් බුද්ධි කණ්ඩායම් මේ ඝාතක කණ්ඩායමත් එක්ක සම්බන්ධතා තියෙන බවට එවැනි අවස්ථාවල ඒ සම්බන්ධතාවයන් තියෙන පුද්ගලයන් කැඳවීමේදී සහ ඔවුන්ගෙන් ප්‍රශ්න කිරීමේදී යම් බාධා කිරීම් සිදු වුණා.
He says when police arrested some associates of the bombers, intelligence stopped their interrogations on national security grounds. He says his team discovered that military intelligence visited the home of one of the bombers on the day of the attack, but actively concealed this from his investigators.
ඒ ගිය පසු ඔහුගේ නිවසට බුද්ධියන්ත සමාජිකයන් කීප දෙනෙකු ගමන් කර ඇති බවට මට වාර්තා වුණා.
Why would military intelligence not share that information with police?
මා දන්නේ.
The Rajapaksa regime collapsed last year amid a popular uprising. But getting on the wrong side of its powerful allies is still a risky business.
I am sure they are having files about many of us, even myself. I am quite sure of that, because our telephones are not safe anymore for us to converse freely.
Leading the Catholic Church's push for answers, Cardinal Malcolm Ranjit says his priests are under surveillance and one is being sued for defamation by Suresh Sali. He's now head of Sri Lanka's Security Intelligence Service, a role that brings him into contact with Australian officials.
Those who were in the intelligence services had some role to play in the general mayhem that existed during the wartime, disappearances, murders. So we have to investigate to what extent were these people involved in this East attack.
Sri Lanka's new president has ordered a parliamentary committee to investigate Asad Maulana's allegations. But the Cardinal is calling for international pressure for an independent inquiry.
We want a thorough investigation, a transparent investigation where politicians don't meddle. We want the Australian government and all governments of the world to help us to find out what really happened to these 273 people.
Ranjit Weerasinghe says the Australian government must support them and the claims of a conspiracy should not be dismissed.
So the government has a responsibility, Australian government has responsibility to find out what happened to our people.
That's the programme for this evening. Thank you very much for your company. Good night.